Welcome to the Refurbishment Mastery Podcast with me, Martin Rapley. If you're a property investor who is worried about paying too much for your next property, concerned that you don't know how to manage a refurb, or scared that you will be ripped off by a builder, then this is for you. In this podcast, I share over 30 years of experience of managing refurbishments and conversions to help you make more profit, save your time, and ultimately enjoy the process. On with the podcast. Hi there, welcome back and thanks for listening. If you go back to podcast episode number 38, that was the one that I had Suzi Carter join me as a guest. Suzi Carter is an expert in commercial property investing, and she presented pros and cons of commercial property, and we spoke about a little bit about the process of refurbishing commercial property as well. More recently, Suzi's invited me to speak at one of her online events, and I was specifically talking about refurbishing commercial property. So this episode is a copy of the recording from that event. So please enjoy.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Suzi. It's good to be seeing you again today, and good to see you've got plenty of people online today. So
absolutely,
I hope you've had a good day.
Everyone's stuck around to see you, so that's good.
I'm not sure if this is the graveyard shift. It's not too late. Hopefully people are still here to listen.
No. Your talks are always great. So, just for context for everybody, I know Martin. I've known Martin for quite a long time now, Martin, haven't I? What I think when you mentor and train people is, and you invest as well. I think you have to realize what you're good at and what you're not good at. And one of the things that I'm not good at is costing works. I'm terrible at it, actually. And so, doing schedules of works and stuff that's not one of my strengths, and I don't never claim for it to be. And so I always bring in people who I know and trust who can help me. And so Martin works with with my board members. He works with a lot of Commercial Property Academy clients to do exactly that, conversions, but also kind of, doing works to commercial property, preparing for tenants fit out, white boxing, all of these terms I'm sure that Martin will share with you today. So without further ado, Martin, over to you. So finish around kind of past, something like that, if that's okay, and then we'll do the prize draw and we'll wrap up.
Yep, that's all right. That works for me. So quite a short little presentation today, really just to sow some seeds and get you thinking about things, all relating to refurbishing commercial buildings. My background is from construction management. I was originally a quantity surveyor working for building contractors. I then became a project manager. I had my own construction company for a while. That's when I started to meet property investors, and from there I became a property investor, and then and then I became a consultant quantity surveyor and project manager. And then more recently, I've been teaching and mentoring property investors, developers and builders who deliver their projects more efficiently and more effectively. And when I started training a little bit more, I looked back and thought, what are the things that make some projects more successful than other projects? Why in my career have I had some projects go wrong? Not always directly as a result of me, but as a result of the team or things that have gone wrong. And when I speak to property investors now and developers now, I want to understand, as much as it's great that things go right, we can learn so much when things don't go quite as successfully as we want them to go. And what I've distilled it down to is that really there are 4 elements that make a fundamental difference to the success of any kind of project that we're going to do. And in reality, you need all 4 of them in place to have a successful project. There's more things beyond this that are the icing on the cake that you'll cover you'll get as you get more experience, as you do more projects. But with these four elements, you really are well on the way to a successful refurbishment. And I've broken this down to it's broken down into a formula. A plus S plus GB plus M will get you a successful project. And I'll take you through those four elements just to sow the seeds as to what you need to be thinking about to ensure that your refurbishment is as successful as it can possibly be. So the A stands for appraisal. So we're starting before we've even started any work on site or anything like this, because it's really, really important that we know what we're buying, we know, what we're planning on doing with it, and that we are doing the right research to understand what we are getting for our money. And I came in towards the end of Arthur's talk there. The understanding capital allowances is part of your due diligence, but the important thing to say here is your due diligence may not need to be taking any account of what you're being told by the estate agent that is selling you the property. Their job is to sell you the property on behalf of their client, the vendor of the property, and to some extent you may not be able to believe much or all of what that estate agent tells you. It's really important that you do your own due diligence. And remember, I'm bringing all of this to you from experience of talking to other property investors that have had problems, or learnings and in some of these from projects I've got involved with. So do your due diligence thoroughly. Don't believe what you're told by estate agents. Research that, and be clear about the price that you're paying for the property, and the technical details around the property, capital allowances, planning, use classes and things like that. That only you will suffer if you get this wrong. And this is all towards having a successful project at the end. You need to be clear what you're going to do with the property. Probably a lot less likely to get this wrong in a commercial property, but you do have to have some idea as to who's going to rent the building from you. If you rent the building out, you will secure cash flow income, normally with commercial property on a quarterly basis. You may convert it into something else and sell it, in which case you may well take a profit from it, which is right for you. Maybe you want some and some, maybe there's a conversion, a refinance, and then some investment, some rental later on to tenants. But you need to be clear before you start. Sadly, a lot of people talk to me and say, well, I bought this property and now I'm trying to work out what to do with it. That's back to front. You need to know what you want to do with it before you buy it. And depending on what you want to do with it can have massive impact on the price that you can afford to pay for that property. And different people will see different opportunities with the same property and may or may not be able to offer more or less than you as a result. Your offer price is not necessarily the wrong price if someone bids more. It may be that they just saw a different opportunity with that building. And ultimately, this all comes down to experience. It's really important, as Suzi touched on, that when you put your appraisals together, you are using realistic figures for any building works, any conversion works, any refurbishment works that you want to carry out. And generally, those figures should not come from builders. Now, that might be a real bombshell for you, but at this stage, the average builder is not experienced enough to give you the correct figures. The average builder is not property investing. The average builder is not carrying out these kinds of works to commercial properties on a regular basis. The average builder doesn't always understand building regulations. and the average builder certainly doesn't, is less likely to understand long-term commercial investment opportunities. The kinds of people you need to be speaking to are quantity surveyors, or indeed you can learn realistic figures for yourself. And I think that's a really valuable skill to actually have, because if you understand the mechanics of carrying out conversions and refurbishments, and you understand the cost of that work, then you can appraise so many more deals in much shorter time, and you can find the right things that much quicker and that much easier. So I'd encourage you to learn how to budget refurbishments and conversions so that you're not relying on builders who, believe me, are not the right people to be talking to at this stage. Contrary to what many people will tell you, I'm here to tell you from the construction side of things, they are not the right people. And remember that not all commercial property needs a full refurbishment. If it depending on who your tenant is, and when you buy the property, you may not have a clear idea as to who the tenant is. You might have some good ideas, but you may not have a tenant lined up to move in. But remember, with commercial property, a lot of tenants will expect to fit out the property to suit their own use of that property. And Suzi briefly touched on a phrase, white boxing, in the introduction. A lot of commercial property is let as 4 walls, a ceiling, normally all painted white, and a floor, and that's it. And we leave our incoming tenant to do the fit out. Some tenants want it fully fitted out, ready to use as an office. Other tenants don't need much more done to it. They're going to bring in some machinery. Some tenants are going to use it as a retail outlet, and they're going to cover the walls with shelves, racking and shelving, and things like that. Other people will bring in more things, maybe some specialist equipment and things like that. So make sure that you're clear how much refurbishment is needed for your particular use at the end of the day. If you're converting it to residential, that's fairly easy to specify. Although remember that with residential, there's still lots of different standards, levels, qualities, etc., etc. So be really clear what needs doing for your particular end user, tenant or purchaser, depending on what you're planning on doing with it. So that is the A part of the formula. The S stands for schedule of works, or probably more likely specification with the people that I'm talking to now. They're not quite the same thing in construction terminology, but for the purposes today, they both start with S, and they are pretty close to being the same thing. And this leads on from where I've just left off to remind you that you know what is needed for the property. No one else knows. You know why you want to buy this property, and only you can set out what is needed for your end tenant, your end purchaser, the end use of that particular building. And we set out what we need in a schedule of works. So we don't leave this for a builder to work it out as they go along. We specify what's right, because if we get it wrong, or our builder builds the wrong thing because we weren't clear, it's us that suffers, because we don't get the rental income we expect, or we can't sell the property at the value we were hoping to get. This schedule of works helps everyone understand what's needed. You are definitely number one. By writing a schedule of works, you get clarity as to what you need in this building for your end user. But other people that will benefit from this could be your lender. If your lender wants to know where the money's going, you've got a schedule of works that shows them. Could be a business partner. Well worth sharing your ideas with a business partner to make sure you're both on the same page. If it's written down, it's clear. If you've got private investors, it adds to the credibility your credibility, that you know what you're doing with their money. And ultimately, when you come to tender the works out to builders, we've now got a document that is shared with multiple builders. They're all looking at the same document. They're all pricing the same work. We've now got clarity and confirmation that they are like for like prices as best as possible. And importantly, with this schedule of works, the builder can now deliver that project without phoning you up every 5 minutes, asking questions that just gets in your way, and then you end up falling out with each other. So it's a really, really important document to have. Remember that the builders are not property investors, be it residential or commercial. They're generally not property investors. So they don't know what is expected. The only way they can deliver what is expected is if you tell them what is actually needed. And it's for you to understand not just your end user, your tenants, your clients, if you're going to sell, but also what is required from a regulation perspective, particularly if you're thinking of converting something into HMOs, for instance. What are the minimum requirements in your area? What are what do you need to provide to make it a compliant, licensable HMO? Only you can do that research, and only you should do that research, and you should instruct your builders accordingly within the schedule of works. Don't ever leave them to go off and research some legislation, because it's not their core skill. Their core skill is delivering projects. So don't expect them to understand some of the terminology we talk about. Return on investment will be a mystery to them. So phrases like that, there's just no point in talking to your builders about them. What builders can follow is a clear schedule of works that sets out what you want them to do. Just jumping in to make sure that you've got everything you need. Now, in a number of these podcasts, you'll have heard me talk about other property investors that I'm currently working with or have worked with in the past. And so I wanted to ensure that you can find out how you can actually work with me. And the best place to start with that is my website, www.refurbishmentmastery.com. On there, you'll find details of training courses that I run. You'll find details about my community, and also how you can work with me on a one-to-one basis when you are progressed far enough down the line. And then if you're not really sure what's right for you and how we can work together, then there's a button at the top. Just hit the button at the top that says book a call. It's absolutely free. It will take you to my diary, find a slot, and we'll be able to talk in the next couple of weeks. Remember, the website is refurbishmentmastery.com. I really look forward to helping you with a successful delivery of all of your projects. Now back to the podcast. And importantly, we need to start thinking of this schedule of work quite early on. We're thinking about it as we put our appraisal together in the first place. We're already thinking about what our end user needs, but we need to start researching our schedule of works early, particularly if you are converting to residential, because there's so many more elements of a residential property to think about. We need to think about all the fixtures and fittings and everything that we want to include. And as I say, we don't want to be leaving any of this to our builders, because it's not their skill. Many builders still believe that property investors and developers want everything painted magnolia. You'll be surprised how many builders are surprised that we don't want everything in magnolia. But in turn, if we've got a basic commercial unit, many builders will be surprised that we don't need to finish it to a high standard. And certainly a commercial building I got involved with refurbishing, we extended upwards and put some flats above. But what was left downstairs, my client ended up renting it with bare brickwork to a barber shop who actually retained all the bare brickwork, and it's part of the feature of their building now. My client could have spent £12,000 plastering out that unit, and ultimately it wouldn't have suited the tenant that took it. So you can only get that right if you plan it, you know what you're doing, and you don't leave your builders to make decisions. And we do that by putting together a schedule of works so that the builders don't have to make any decisions and therefore can't make the wrong decisions. So that's the S part of the formula. GB stands for good builder. And there's no doubt we need a good builder. Now, generally, over my 40 years of experience, I have largely worked with good builders and good tradesmen. But I'll hold my hand up. I have had my fair share of builders that haven't been right for us. And even, more recently, I've had problems with builders that have been great for many, many years. And then for whatever reason, things have turned sour and, they're not the builder for me. But to find good builders, you need to do some due diligence, and you need to kind of know what you're looking for. And one of the first things I would remind you here is a good builder is not necessarily only found by price alone. So the cheapest builder can be a good builder, but sometimes the cheapest builder is not the builder you want. And frequently I talk to clients that say to me, and I've done this myself, I didn't look at the cheapest price. I started from the second cheapest price on the basis that they were likely to be a slightly better builder. So the way to find a good builder is actually, or the way to find a good builder is actually to start looking for lots of builders and be very critical about ways and reasons for not working with builders. One of the biggest mistakes I see investors making is that they actually only talk to 3 builders. They then invite those builders round to look at the project. One of them disappears. Never hear from him again. Don't know where he's gone, but he's gone. We've now only got 2 prices coming in. One of them decides to go on holiday and can't start the work. We've now only got 1 price. We didn't like the fella. We're not sure how good he is, but he can start on Monday. So we've appointed him. We've been forced to take the only price we've got. I would encourage you to talk to lots more builders, possibly up to 8, 9, 10. Speak to them, find out what they do, where they work, what kind of projects they do, what their resources are, what their availability is. And from that, select perhaps the best 5 or 6 that we're taking from 10 down to 5 or 6. Invite 5 or 6 to price your project. There'll be one that disappears. There'll be one that's gone on holiday, but we've now got 4 prices left. And with 4 prices, hopefully we can find the right builder. We're not taking the only builder that's pricing the project. Ultimately, you need to demonstrate to these builders that you are credible. If you don't come across to a builder as being credible, you will naturally attract the wrong builders, because the wrong builders are seeing you as someone who's disorganized, that they believe they can manipulate to make more money from. Whereas if you come across as credible, you will naturally attract the better builders, the good builders. And you come across as being credible by having a schedule of work, by knowing what you want the builder to do. And you also come across as being credible if you say to the builder, if they ask you the budget and you say the budget's £50,000 and that is realistic, then you come across as credible. And that goes back to the appraisal stage as well. So you can see how all of these start to link together. And then just to finish off here, to say again, and I've put this up twice because it is so important, you get what you pay for. And if you underpay, the chances are that you are going to get the wrong builder. And that it might feel cheap in the first instance, but in the longer term, it will almost certainly cost you more money. Final part of the formula is M for management. So we need to consider how we are managing our projects. And importantly, ask yourself the question, do you have enough expertise and time to manage the project yourself? And the project starts right at the beginning when we're first doing our appraisals and when we're putting together our schedule of works and when we're finding builders. It's not just the delivery of the building work that you're outsourcing that to a builder. They still need managing, but there is a longer period. The management also includes perhaps some separate fitting out, and perhaps ongoing management of tenants and what have you. So consider whether you've got the time and expertise. Do you need some more support in this regard, or do you need a project manager? Now, if you need a project manager, then the cost of the project manager needs to be reflected in the appraisal you did at the very beginning of the whole process. So you can see how everything dovetails together here. If you are going to manage your own projects, then don't get into the realms where you're micromanaging and you're there every day of the week. If you're there every day of the week, then I would suggest you've either got the wrong builder or you didn't write a good schedule of works. Again, it all ties up together. The more you're on site, the more you're holding up your builder, and the more the relationship is going to break down. As a project manager, I generally only ever intended to go to site once a week, maybe a little bit more at the beginning and a bit more at the end, but generally once a week was enough, and sometimes even a little bit less frequently than that. Make sure that you do not hold your builder up. Make sure that if you're buying products, if you need to specify things because you haven't specified them in advance, that you get that to them in good time. The reason projects go wrong is frequently when clients are late getting things delivered, and the builder hasn't therefore got the right person on site at the right time, and then they're sitting waiting. Materials are sitting on site waiting for the right tradesman to come back because the builder sent him away in the first place because you hadn't or clients hadn't delivered the right projects, the right items at the right time. Things like kitchens and bathrooms and specialist items that you might be buying here. And ultimately, to be in a position to deliver a project successfully from a management perspective, you need to be organised in advance. And that goes right back to the beginning with your accurate appraisal. If you get the appraisal wrong and you're forced to cut corners all the way through, then the project is going to go wrong and it's going to be hard work for you. I've been managing projects for 40 years. I still get excited about managing projects, still love working with builders. I want you guys to be excited, and hopefully from what I've just been through, you'll start to see that there is a process to it, and it's a process that you can learn. It's a process that you can replicate. So here's the whole formula. You need an accurate appraisal in the first place. You need to convert that, write a schedule of work so that your builder knows what you actually want to achieve. You need to find a good builder by talking to more than one or two. And you need to consider how you are going to manage the project. A plus S plus GB plus M will get you a successful project. In fact, it will get you more profit with less stress and in less time. So that is the whole formula, and that's what I'm all about, helping property investors cut out the stress and all the uncertainty as a result of having a process. There's some ways there you can get hold of me. I'll leave that up on the screen.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. Please do like, share and leave a comment where you can. If you need any guidance or advice with anything to do with your refurbishments or conversions, then don't hesitate to reach out. You can book a free call with me by clicking on the link at the top of my website, refurbishmentmastery.com. There's other ways you can contact me in the show notes as well. I look forward to speaking to you again soon.